loads up his boy's clip, and his boy goes and does a drive-by, and they pull those prints off, and they find person X's fingerprints on them, do you think they're going to care about his story? Well, I didn't know he was going to go kill anybody, or they're going to arrest him as a, you know what I mean? So why is she getting special treatment?
Where is Danley now? That's
a good question. I don't know. Supposedly she's still under surveillance or under watch, whatever that means.
Is she in the U.S. or is she still in the Philippines?
She's in the United States as far as I know.
Okay. So she's under investigation. The brother's under investigation. Now, based on the way they're reporting this, there are multiple indictments, correct?
Well, that's what the report says. And then the Las Vegas lawyer for the police department said, and the prosecutor said that there could be indictments. So they're leaving it as an open door.
Like plural. The word plural has come up repeatedly.
Correct. Absolutely correct. And, a funny thing the other day, I was reading an article, and I don't know exactly where, because I obviously, as you well know, I've been going crazy researching this stuff. There was an article where the MGM was contacted after this stuff was released, and in the article, the MGM corporation said that they're not aware of any employees or ex-employees that were under investigation, and that kind of stood out to me because we haven't heard much about this.
Why would they issue a statement?
Exactly right. So that kind of made me take note of what's going on with Mr. Campos. And I'm not here to slander Mr. Campos. If I don't have any evidence that proves he was involved or anything like that, and I won't even jump to that conclusion until I have concrete evidence. I wouldn't do that to somebody. I think that in this day and age where it's so easy to just hop online and just destroy somebody's life by
Well, yeah, you can just do a tweet. You can literally tweet and start a cascading effect on anybody.
Yeah, you know what they say, a lie has a chance to get around the world before the truth can put its pants on.
Yeah, I definitely agree to that. All right, so we know that there's. I'm gonna go way out on a limb. There's multiple indictments coming down in this. I safely believe that his brother and the girlfriend, if she is his girlfriend, let's assume she is. Why even go further than that? There's a question about this police. I want to go back to the police officer. What was his excuse for discharging his weapon?
They haven't given us any information about it. They're so mum is the word. And then today we get an article talking about how Sheriff Lombardo is going to try and get the police monitors encrypted so that people can't listen in on the monitors anymore. And as this attack was happening, that's how I got all of my information. According to the police monitors that night, Lee, there were shooters all over the place. According to the monitors, I listened to those monitors that night. My girlfriend and I laid here in bed, and I was so thankful that my girlfriend, she works at the New York, and she was working graveyard at the time, but she happened to be off that day. So she could have easily been up there, and they were talking about on the scanner about how there was shooters at New York, how there was a shooter at Harrah's. There was all kinds of crazy. The information was so chaotic and crazy that I just couldn't believe what I was listening to. And now he wants to put some kind of ban in place where it encrypts the scanner. I don't like that at all, especially as a Ron Paul kind of guy, where I'm really big on free speech and I'm the public consuming information that we're supposed to consume. I'm not a fan of that. I don't like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Do we think that there's going to be anybody in law enforcement, from your perspective? Let me reframe. Do we believe anybody from the law enforcement side is going to be brought under the magnifying glass for this?
I think so, Lee, but I don't know exactly who. I mean, somebody leaked those pictures out of that room. Those weren't released by the actual team. Those were actually taken on someone's cell phone, and those were released, and that's highly illegal. So I think that there's going to be some trouble for someone there. I don't know as far as like the discharging of the firearm. I highly doubt that anyone will get in trouble for that. I mean, they won't even give us any information. So how could we ever even, have an opinion one way or the other as a taxpayer who deserves to have that information? If an officer ever discharges their firearm, we should have a full report of why.
That's a fair statement. Because we ultimately, at the end of the day, pay for that discharge.
That's right.
All right. With all of that said, what do you think is going to be the next thing that happens in this case? Where do you think it goes here? What's happening next? Or is it going to be hard to sweep this back under the rug, especially with the current release of information? Because now it's getting picked through. These guys are literally on page 1, And they're cranking out stories. If it's in the LA Times and the New York Times, I'm telling everybody who's listening, it's going to be hard to put the genie back in the bottle once they start tearing this thing apart page by page.
Right. We're all doing the same thing to this as we did to the dossier. That's the bogus dossier about Trump. It's the same exact kind of citizen journalism, and it's absolutely it's heartening to see, like you said, all the major brands hopping on this story. And I know I'm very critical of the mainstream media because they lie to us all the time. But in instances like this, they're worth their weight in gold when they can start, suing people and stuff like that, because they have assets that obviously citizen journalists don't have. I don't have $500,000 to litigate against, the FBI. Get out of here. I don't have that kind of dough. But at the same time, I think that once they get the information, I think that they should, disseminate it properly and not hold things back the way they do it's almost to the point where they lie to us and they just give you what they want you to hear, what they think that you're able to handle, I guess I should say. And there's so much more going on in the world than we get on Fox and we get on CNN or MSNBC. I just think that going forward with this story, I don't think there's any way they could put the lid back on this, Lee. I think once the mainstream media picked up on the 300 pages and these articles started cranking out, they're going to start dissecting this, and they're going to feed it out day by day. They're going to try to stretch this as long as they can, because at the end of the day, this is the real fact that I will say about this case. They're going to whore this thing out. It's just it's just content to feed to people that will make people look at the website, that will make them click on the bait, which will, pay for the advertising. It's about money. I mean, the saddest part of this whole thing to me is the whoring out of the situation. It's just another piece of content to be whored out. That's always my issue. My issue is always, at the end of the day, and I'm a marketing guy by day, so everybody back away from whatever. I get that I do it too. But at the end of the day, taking tragedy and whoring it out just so that I click on TooFab to find out the 20 best looking celebrities because they get paid for that's the tragedy of the situation. We're not remembering the people who were killed and I legitimately personally have a connection to people who've died at the event. I should have been at the event. So I'm pretty tied to this whole thing. In fact, you and I both know I'm pretty shocked that I wasn't at the event. That's how. This is like a normal thing for me to go to these kinds of things. Except I probably would have been. I would have been smarter. I'll say this: if you guys want conspiracy, the only people that were 100% safe were those in VIP. Take that for what it's worth if you want to add that to your conspiracy theory list. But the VIP area, based on the direction of the shooting, it was only the general public. It was the people who pay for the general tickets. Yep, and it was poorly handled by the security staff that was working the event. Yeah, the people the people who got shot were just drunk idiots getting shot for standing around. And that's the part that bothers me. It's just, we have to remember, at the end of the day, it's the 58 victims who were killed and the 500 plus who were injured that really matter in this case. Yeah. And what really matters is that we get closure not only as a city but as a nation on situations like these, and they aren't left up to interpretation and all sorts of crazy conversation, because we need to realize that those are actually 58 people that have an impact on on their families' lives and their friends' lives. Those are grandmothers and grandpas and brothers and sisters. They're real people. So they deserve answers. And for the FBI to obfuscate the whole entire thing from the beginning and muddy the waters and to basically throw out disinformation, it just reeks of me of a James Comey, Bob Mueller tactic, and it makes me ill because I've seen the whole entire thing happen on 9/11, Lee. They did the same thing, Bob Mueller, on 9/11. Yeah. Yeah, and here's the thing. If we're going all the way back to 9/11, again, it's what you're going to feed to the public, what's the final story, and they want to put together a book that's been reviewed by 15 different lawyers as a politically correct story with redacted section. That's what's going to happen here. I don't care what anybody thinks. I will tell you the outcome. We're going to get a 400-page report that is mostly redacted, and we will never know exactly what happened here. The only way we're ever going to get the truth in this story, like the actual truth, is if there's a whistleblower. if somebody just can't take it and they said, you know what, that's it, I'm leaking this shit. I don't care if I get fired. I'm going the Edward Snowden route. And that's probably the only way we'll ever get to, sadly, the only way we'll truly ever get to the bottom of this, because like Rouse said, he's going to have, it's going to take until next year for them to determine what happened maybe. Did you see that report?
No, I did not. Why don't you expand on it?
Yeah, the FBI said that they'll have a report out for us sometime in 2019.
2019.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly right. It's just insane. It's just insane. And the FBI is just what they've fallen to from where they were, the great G-men of our childhood. They aren't those guys anymore, these guys are all...
It's about lawyers and media, and I get that. I thought it was funny. I was reading, whose book was I reading? Fiction. The Navy SEAL guy who writes all his little fiction books, Rogue Warrior guy.
Oh, Richard Marchenko?
Richard Marchenko, in his last series of books, because he likes to write it as real as humanly possible, he goes, every action that we take, even on or off the books, is reviewed by an attorney. Period.
Oh, hell yeah. The Justice Department attorneys are all over that stuff. Like guys like Bruce Orr, another guy who's got demoted because of the handling of the dossier, and that's what I want to discuss in the next segment, the dossier.
Tell me about the dossier.
Yeah, so the dossier that was provided by BuzzFeed, provided to BuzzFeed, has just been completely and utterly debunked. So what's going on with this dossier? A lot of guys in Congress, like Jim Jordan and a whole slew of other congressmen, believe that this dossier was used to get a FISA warrant, making them able to basically spy on the Trump campaign during a transition. And if that's the case, and they got a FISA warrant on a bogus dossier, people are going to go to prison, Lee.
Wow. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving parts here.
And once again, this all wraps back to, like I said earlier, James Comey, Bob Mueller, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, and Bruce Orr. Those are the main players. And then McCabe and Rosenstein to a lesser extent, because they've been neutralized at this point. There's a whole entire – basically, I'll just come out and say it. There is a bunch of non-elected officials, holdovers from the Obama campaign that were Hillary loyalists that knew that they were going to be in big trouble if anyone ever investigated this Uranium One deal, that basically were engaged in a coup to get rid of Donald Trump, a shadow coup, and it's been stalled because of the whole entire release of the dossier information by the internal investigator, Horowitz, who turned over all these text messages between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page to Congress.
So what should we look forward to in future episodes?
All the stuff that's going on around the world that, the media really doesn't want to touch is the stuff I want to dive into, like what's going on in Saudi Arabia, the Game of Thrones that's being played in Saudi Arabia. I'd love to discuss that. I'd love to discuss, what's going on in Israel with Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, Syria. I'd love to discuss all of that stuff. And then at home, we just have a bevy of things we could talk about. Crazy Maxine Waters. We can talk about all the millions of dollars that have been used to, hide senators and congressmen being sexual harassers or rapers. A million things we could talk about in our own beautiful shithole here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So where can everybody go? Are we going to have a Facebook page? What are we going to have? All right, so by the time this show comes out, shouldn't we have a Facebook page or something? But yeah, we're talking out loud. This is the first episode, everybody. Enjoy it.
Right. I have my Icarus News Facebook page that I've basically have been running now for the last month and a half. We could attach this to there, or we could even start up a new page if you want, maybe get like a forum going or something.
Anywhere that they can comment, whatever you like is best, and we'll put it to a vanity URL. Hold on. I'll even do it while we're doing this call, just so that everybody feels they're on board with. I was there at the beginning. Before they got shut down by the man. We're not going to get shut down by the man, trust me. We're not big enough on the radar.
Guantanamo. Yeah, I'll tell you what. These guys, man, these federal officials, I know from personal experience how they act and how they conduct themselves. I've seen what they've done to neighborhoods over sports betting.
All right, let's see. Challenge the narrative. And let's see if somebody owns this thing. ChallengeTheNarrative.com is CHALLE